Okay, are we ready?
Are you ready?
I'm really nervous. My name is Ellie.
And my name is Ross.
Welcome to our podcast, In Real Life, where we dive deep into life, relationships, and real-world topics.
We promise laughter, tears, and jaw-dropping moments. Well, I don't want to promise it.
So get ready because this is what it means for us to live in real life. This series will touch on subjects related to suicide and other challenging life experiences. If you're struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, you can reach out to Lifeline Australia at 13 11 14 or reach their website at www.lifeline.org.au. Hi everyone, welcome back to In Real Life with Ellie and Ross and Daisy.
We brought Daisy's bed.
We did. We got Daisy's bed.
She just decided to chill on the couch.
Yeah, she's so spoiled. She's got everything, but she just wants to sleep on the flat sofa. But welcome back. We're so excited to have you back with us. This is our second season of In Real Life.
Or series or chapter. We didn't really know what to call it.
Yeah.
Second topic.
Yeah, second topic.
First topic was child stuff.
Which also I would love to say thank you everyone for your support on the launch of In Real Life and sending us all of your feedback. It's been such an amazing experience hearing people's stories and having people share their experiences and feedback with us. It's actually been unreal and very touching for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very touching.
But before we begin, Spotify lets you leave comments and interact with our podcast online. So anything that...
I think Apple does as well, right?
Yeah, actually it does, yeah. But Spotify lets you now.
Anyway, leave all the comments, do the things.
Yeah, subscribe, support the podcast because it helps us reach a lot more people. And for this, I was going to say this season, this series. This topic is something that's very, very close to our hearts. It's how we navigated grief and loss of our dads.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a past thing, navigated. I think it's how we navigate because I think we're still going through stuff. I think it comes up just naturally. You know, you hear, it's like, you're out with friends and they're talking about, oh, it's Dad's birthday this weekend or it's Father's Day, and it just brings back these things. So I don't think it's a, done and dusted thing. I think it's something that we continually will be with for life, right?
Yeah.
But there are some sensitive topics. This is like some sensitive stuff. So if you aren't in a good place...
we want everyone to prioritize their mental health. So if at any point anyone feels overwhelmed or they need to take a break, please do. We are going to be going into some pretty heavy stuff on this series. So please take care of yourself. We want everyone to be happy and mentally well. So if you need to talk to a therapist or talk to a friend or a family member.
Or just smash your phone with a hammer.
Or scream into a pillow like I've done over the years.
Yeah.
Anything that helps, cry, let it out, let all those emotions out. But please prioritize your mental health and take care of yourself.
So this topic, we're going to break it into 3 parts.
Yeah.
So this first one is largely about your experience.
Yeah.
With your dad committing suicide.
Yeah.
The next episode is how we navigated that, and then a bit about my journey losing my dad. And then the third one is...
I'm so excited about the third
one. You
are
so excited. I know.
We have the incredible, iconic David the Medium coming on, and he's actually going to do a reading for us. We thought that this was going to be a really nice... end to the series for everyone, kind of close off a very heavy and emotional topic for us in a really nice way and connect us to our dads.
So basically bring some guy in while we're totally vulnerable and then he's going to say, I'm getting a C sound or a P sound. Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah.
Your dad says, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Look, I'm skeptical with that stuff. There have been experiences that to me show something other than this physical world.
Yeah.
But look, I've seen one of his readings before and I was like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
You are either really, really, really good at fooling people or there's something there. So I'm willing to take a bit of a chance that maybe there's something there. But anyway, we'll see.
I'm a huge believer. You're a bit of a skeptic. So we'll we'll see what you feel after you have your reading.
Yeah. Exciting.
No pressure, David.
No. Well, he's not listening, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Right now, live.
And just to say, he also will not have any idea, because we're filming this series consecutively over a day. I would just like to state that. So he's not going to have any idea about like what we speak about today on this episode or the next episode when he comes in and joins us.
Look, I think I've seen one of his. It's very authentic. It's very, like I said, he's either really, really good at like, fooling people.
Yeah.
Or there's something there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So let's get into.
You're such a skeptic. I believe in you, David.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't believe in him. I'm sure he believes that he's sitting there like channeling stuff as well. I don't think he's sitting there being like, "Oh, I reckon I can get him with this." I don't think that's. So, but anyway, but it's like crazy people. Crazy people don't know they're crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe he's a form of crazy. I don't know. We're going to see. So this is probably the only laughing that we're going to do in this episode, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is deep.
I'm really.
You're already there. I can already see your eyes.
No. If people can probably even just tell, like, my whole demeanor on this episode is just completely different to the last, because I know what's coming and what we're talking about, and I know that it's hard to talk about. So, yeah.
April 24th, 2015, your dad committed suicide.
Yeah.
We were together about 7 years. 18 months after, my dad passed away after battling about 12 months of cancer. Those events massively impacted us, changed our life. I do think that, through our late teens, early 20s, you and I, we read a lot of books, we watched a lot of videos, we went to some seminars, some workshops around personal, professional, wellness, development and practices.
Shout out to Tony Robbins. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Tony. Whoa. Look, I definitely think that those things help prepared us for these two specific experiences and helped equip us a little bit better. When these things happen, we knew to reach out for help. We knew we definitely didn't handle things perfectly.
Yeah.
There's definitely, looking back, if we got to rewind and do things again, I think there's things that we would have both done slightly differently. But I do think.
But that's life. Like, life's not perfect. It's messy. You learn all of the lessons that you're supposed to learn.
That's true.
Through your experiences, and it makes you a stronger. Like, I know my experiences have made me so much stronger and far more resilient, and someone who. It's turned me into someone who I know who I am because of those experiences.
Yeah. So I guess we don't want to share these stories. We're definitely not sharing these stories for anyone to feel sorry for us. We don't feel sorry for ourselves. Like, shit's happened. There's people who are, they've gone through far worse, and, there's some crazy stuff happening in the world, and always does happen. But I guess it's probably to give a bit of an insight into your experiences, because you've never shared this stuff before, other than snippets, posts, a couple of little things similar like the list, to get some context around this.
I feel like I've never had the platform to be actually fully able to tell my dad's story in the way that he deserves.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've always been very wary about, and like having that safe space to be able to do that.
Yeah, look, there's no perfect way to share it, I guess. So I guess let's have a conversation about it. Let's explore.
Let's get into
discuss.
Okay. I'm ready.
I'm
ready. I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Hopefully, if you're listening and you're going through something similar, you know of someone who's going through something similar. Maybe it can help you navigate those things a little bit better. Maybe it can help you navigate them personally if you're going through things, or maybe, again, if you've lost a parent to suicide or a sibling, or you have some bad thoughts, maybe it helps you navigate. Hopefully, you take something from it.
Yeah. I think with anything that we share, we hope to achieve that someone takes something positive away from it, whatever they're going through or whatever someone they care about is going through. And just hopefully make everyone a little bit more aware and empathetic, and just give people kindness and support. That's what we hope to achieve from sharing our stories. And
So speaking of stories, tell me a story about your dad, like childhood. Do you have one or two that come to mind?
I had a beautiful childhood. I grew up with 3 other siblings. My parents were together. We grew up on acreage. We were surrounded by horses and animals, and we had ducks and chickens and geese, and grew up with wildlife around us, and it was actually a really beautiful childhood. My dad worked his ass off. He was an immigrant who came from the UK. He came from nothing. So he really built a life for himself and put all of his energy and efforts into creating a beautiful life for his children. There's a couple of stories that I sort of like look back on, and like how my dad sort of like shaped me as a person and how I am. But there was this one experience where we had like ducks and chickens and everything. And he was like a very empathetic, like animal person. He never wanted to hurt an animal. He was like very, very like kind and gentle, very masculine man, very, very masculine man. Worked really, really hard. Like, I think like, you know, a lot of the times when you grow up, the dad's at work, the mum's at home, but my parents both worked pretty hard, and we were able to spend quality time with our parents growing up. But I remember one day we had these chickens and geese and everything, and they were like laying eggs and they were having babies. It was like springtime. And my dad saw this gigantic goanna walking up from the dam through the grass. And he was just like, called my neighbor, who was like my godfather. And he's like, mate, I've got a huge goanna walking up. Can you come and help me get rid of it? My godfather thought, I'm going to get the shotgun. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to like blow its brains out. So my dad sees him walking down. He's like, what do you got the fucking gun for? He's like, what do you got that for? Put it away. And he was just like, we're going to kill it. And my dad was like, absolutely not. We're not fucking killing this goanna. We're going to put it in a box and we're going to drive it away from the property. So my dad jumps on this gigantic fucking goanna. And my godfather's standing there and he's like, this guy's fucking nuts. He is out of his fucking mind.
If he didn't know by then he certainly knew it.
The only thing missing was a cigar from his mouth in that moment. But he was wrestling this goanna and put it into this big TV box, put it in the car, drove it away. And I think this is like where I get my affinity and love for animals from, and why I became like a wildlife warrior, because I was raised to have that love and empathetic nature for things that can't speak or don't have the ability to tell you how they feel. So that was like a really cute, really funny memory of my dad. He was always like very masculine and strong, but he was also very sensitive in the fact that like he did a lot of things that he knew that we would love. Like one instance, he was away on a work trip and he always did this little thing where he'd like buy something for us and let us know that he was thinking about us when he was away on a work trip. One day he came back from New Zealand and I was fast asleep in my bed and I just heard the door sort of crack open and I was facing the wall and he just drops down this cute little fluffy kiwi toy. And I still remember like looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's so cute, but I'm still asleep. I'm not going to pretend to, I'm pretending to be asleep. I'm not awake. And then, he just dropped that. I still have that fluffy toy with me as well. It's one of the things that I've actually kept over the years, but yeah, he just did really like sweet little things like that to let us know that he was like always thinking about us, no matter how busy he was or how much he was working. Like he was a very attentive parent in that regard.
So great dad, 10 out of 10 dad.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what he was going through, he was always strong enough to like not let us see what was going wrong, you know?
Until maybe a couple of years before when you were 25.
Yeah, once
you started to sort of let us in, and I feel like you needed someone or some people to talk to, and you know, we all sort of got really close.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Once I sort of hit 18 and into my 20s, like things were very different and we started becoming more like friends, because I think my dad was like, I've done a really good job raising you as a child. Now you're an adult. We can be mates.
Yeah.
That's always sort of what it felt like to me.
Yeah. Well, I felt like that when we'd gone to America.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of a difference, like, wow, cool. Kids out of home, kids in another country now.
Yeah.
With a partner.
Yeah.
I definitely felt like a different style of parenting, I guess. So,
yeah, for sure.
How was your dad with you when you sort of started your career? And
he was always really supportive. He was like, especially when we moved to America, I feel like a lot of parents would never want their kid in their like early 20s to leave the nest and like go overseas to a place where, like, I didn't have a manager, I didn't have an agent. It was just you and me. Like, that was you were managing me in the beginning because nobody believed in me or cared about me or what I wanted to achieve. So yeah, he was always someone who didn't hold me back and just like really supported me in my dreams and my goals. Like, I remember, I always get emotional talking about this, so I'm not going to cry. We're not starting now. But I remember booking my first guest lookbook, and you know how much I wanted to be a guest girl. And
yeah,
my dad,
you photoshopped the guest logo onto images from the age of like 14.
Yeah, I did. It was
How's
so
that
funny.
for visualization though?
I know. I actually what's the word? I manifested my career and my future.
That's all you got to do, kids. Just
Photoshop.
Just put it out to the universe and it will happen. No action at all.
Yeah. But I manifested that from a very young age.
Definitely, yeah.
And I remember calling him and I was like, oh my God, I've booked my first guest lookbook. It wasn't a campaign, but it was like my first job with them. And I was like, it's a lookbook. And my dad was like, oh my God. Like, and I could hear him getting like emotional. And on the phone, because he was just like so proud of me. He knows like, oh, I don't want to cry yet. He knows how hard I worked and the choices that I made. And I'm not going to say sacrifices because they were choices to get to where I wanted to be. And I think he probably saw like a lot of himself in me.
Yeah, well, looking back, I mean, he moved about when you moved to chase and pursue a different life.
Yeah. So I think he saw a lot of like himself in me, and that was just like a really proud moment. And then when I actually did book a guest campaign, he'd already passed. And I remember sitting in the office and Paul Mariciano was like, I walked into the office and all of my guest test photos were like on the desk, and I was like, what's happening? What's going on? This is so weird. And he's like, oh, I wanted to bring you in. I was on a shoot, and he just like randomly brought me into the office, and the photographer who shot me was there. And it was just like,
So this is the owner of Guess for those who don't know.
Sorry. Yeah. And he was like, oh, I wanted you to come in here because I wanted to tell you something. And I was like, yeah, what? And he was just like, you're going to be our next guest girl. And I just remember sitting there and I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? But I started crying. And he was like, oh my God, like, aren't you happy? Like, and like the language barrier there, he's European. So he's like, aren't you happy? And I was like, Paul, I'm so like overwhelmed with happiness.
Because your dad had just passed about 6 months before?
Not even, like a couple of months.
True. Yeah. Actually, it was
like it was pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like after. I was like, I can't even tell you, like, has been one of my biggest dreams in life to be like a guest girl. I shared this. This is one of the things that I shared with my dad, and he's passed away. He committed suicide, and I told him the whole story, and we're just like both sitting there bawling our eyes out, crying. And in that moment, I was just like, my dad would be so proud. Yeah, he would just be so proud of me. And I know in those experiences, my dad is around me. So I kind of get a lot of comfort from those experiences. And he's just like silently high-fiving me. But yeah, like he was blown away by that story, and he's just like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I was, able to make that a reality for you and bring you that kind of like emotional happiness or like closure or something. But yeah, he was very supportive.
So we'd be at that point, we'd been living in America for about maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. In about a year leading up to your dad passing away, I was flying back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I would probably spend more time in Australia than I did in America.
Yeah.
In LA.
Yeah.
I would come over for sometimes 2 or 3 days at a time, and then come back for 3 weeks.
And then I would come over for a couple of days. But we made it work because we knew that was really like that was the direction we were supposed to go in.
I don't think we ever went a month without seeing each other.
We didn't. Yeah. That was our rule.
Yeah. which is hard to
just get
do,
through it.
especially when it's a 14-hour flight.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It became like the bus, like taking the bus to work.
Yeah, pretty much. But you're just taking it every couple of weeks and you're there for 14 hours.
Yeah, and then back into it. But that was a rule that we kind of had for ourselves that made our relationship work when we were living in two different countries, which was really hard.
But it just so happens that on April 23rd,
Yeah. I
arrived to LA.
Yeah.
And the way that the flights work from Brisbane to LA, you fly out at 10 a.m. Brisbane time, you land at about 6 a.m. LA time. So I arrived, you picked me up, and I was going to stay there for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. Everything was all fine and dandy and happy and wonderful. Rani had just left. I had my best friend staying with me for like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
She'd literally I think maybe left that day when you flew in. She flew out the next day.
Yeah.
I think.
So that day that I got in, your dad called.
Yeah. Yeah, he called me out of the blue, and it was because we talked a lot. Like we spoke a lot on Skype. We would message each other, and he would call me quite a few times a week and check up on me, as you do as a parent when your kid's in another country.
Well, some parents do.
Well, he was the only one who really did that in my parent situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, he called me, and as soon as I picked up the phone, and I was laying on top of you, we weren't having sex, just FYI, anyone listening.
That was a bit weird.
I was lying on top of Ross on his back, and I picked up the phone, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, what's up?" It was silly, and I as soon as I saw his face, I was like, "What the fuck has happened?" He was just so. I've actually never seen him look like that before.
Yeah, and
I could feel my heartbeat.
Yeah, I could feel it. Through.
It was just pounding through my chest.
Yeah.
I still remember feeling that, I could feel my heartbeat pounding on top of your back, and I was just like, fuck, what's happened? And he was so he just started explaining what had happened to me, and
he started explaining what had happened to him.
Yeah, to me.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where to start with this. I don't even know how much to share because
it's a Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even know how much to share as well because it's a long story. But for years, my dad had suspicions of things that my mum was ultimately doing, and he now told me that he had proof. And we had a really long phone conversation, and I just remember saying to him, "It's going to be fine. You're going to be fine." And he told me that my mum and him were getting a divorce. He was moving out. He was so devastated, just so incredibly devastated. I'd never seen my dad like that in my life. There's a fly flying around if you can hear it.
It's your dad. He's come back.
It's my dad.
I'm here.
I'm here, motherfuckers.
I'm going to ask David about this. That have been Rick.
So, yeah, he was just fucking devastated.
He unpacked a lot of things.
And he also told me a lot of the things that had been going on over the years that he never shared with me. But now that the cat was out of the bag, and he wasn't just unloading shit on another person. He was just telling his experience and what he'd been going through and the challenges that he'd been having. And I just
he'd
remember
been on a bit of a journey. Both your parents, they were not in the best financial position. That sort of their business, the business that they were in the electronics goods and that sort of stuff, the landscape had very much changed.
Yeah.
So they sort of, lost quite a bit of what they'd worked for over, a couple of decades.
Yeah.
Had to sell a house,
and all of that he could handle.
Yeah, definitely.
He was willing to work through. And you could see it. He was making such a huge effort with the marriage. But yeah, it all fell apart, and it fell apart so tragically. And I just remember saying to him, I was like, "Dad, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fine." I can't remember if I even said to him, "I'm we're going to fly you over and just come and be with us."
You did say, "Come and stay with us. Get away from everything. Come and be with us."
And then he was like, "No. I have to pack up the house. I have to pack up my things. I have to move out. I have to get settled. I have to start my whole life again." Really, that's what.
And in that moment, it seemed like that's what he was committed to doing.
Yeah. I think he was trying to be strong.
Yeah, I mean, but you could see he was pretty broken.
Yeah,
And
you could
hear
see
it
he
in
was.
his voice.
You could more so like just like he was just devastated, just broken. He was just broken.
Yeah.
So I remember getting off the phone to him. Like I was like, everything's gonna be fine. And in that kind of like moment when he was telling me that, for some reason I just had this image come through my brain of him sitting at our wedding day. It's just like this vision, this random vision, sitting at our wedding day next to this beautiful blonde woman. I don't know why she was blonde. It's just how I saw it. But this beautiful blonde woman, and he was so happy. Like he was with someone who treated him the way that he deserved to be treated, you know?
So you was like in your head, you just thought everything's going to be okay. This will work out.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
That was so my my approach to things when I'm like everything will be fine. Like we'll work it out. It'll be okay. So we ended up getting off the phone and you and I had a discussion and you were like we've had friends that have gone through their parents committing suicide. And you said to me, you were like, you know, you should just send Alex a text message. And it never entered my head that he would even ever do that.
No, look, it wasn't that I was thinking that he would. It's very hard to believe someone would. But
what you said was people have killed themselves over far less worse things before. So I messaged my sister Alex and I was like, look, you know, just keep an eye on Dad. Like people have killed themselves over far less things. And I think like just keep an eye on him.
I don't think you said that I don't think you said the people have killed themselves over far. I think what you said was to hopefully get that part across.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as direct as that.
Yeah, not as direct as that. But for today, that's what I meant in a text message.
Yeah.
And I sent him a couple of messages on Skype because we were going to sleep. Like there was late afternoon that he called me. We were going to bed. I was like, hey Dad, like I hope you're okay. Like I love you so much. Like I still have screenshots of these on Skype. And I didn't get a response back. And I actually had messaged my sister Alex again. And I was like, hey, like is Dad all right? And she's like, yeah, he's fine. Like he's packing up all of his stuff. That's why he hasn't been on Skype. And I was like, okay, cool. We went to bed. I woke up the next morning. I had a PT session that you were coming along to with my trainer.
Yeah, and this was it's a pretty well-known spot in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Gunnar Peterson, who's the trainer of the Lakers, people like Sylvester Stallone, Kardashians. That's how you met. First time you met Khloe Kardashian was there, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're leaving, because there's only
all
like
of the Kardashians.
one-on-one place. Whenever you're leaving, another person is coming, and there was always like photographers and whatever downstairs.
Yeah, they were always everywhere. Like 500 of them outside the garage.
Yeah, not saying that a name drop or anything, but it definitely creates a context as to what sort of happens next. That you're in this spot. It's a private spot,
but it's not.
Yeah,
there's like. And literal famous people around next to you.
Yeah. So, we went and smashed that session.
Yeah. We had that session and sort of how the gym is like there's a huge like runway like area for like lunges and exercises and stuff, and there's all the equipment on the other sides. And there's an area where you like put down all of your stuff, and then the front door is all the way at the other end. So we finished the session. I went and picked up my stuff. And I just see, this is like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning as well in LA. So I see 16 missed calls from my sister. And I was like, fuck, there's something really bad has happened. I instantly thought that because I was like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Australia.
Yeah.
What is going on? Why she called me 16 times? So I'm walking slowly back to the front door and I was calling her and she answers the phone and she's hysterical, like hysterically crying. Can't even get a word out. And I just remember I was like, fuck. I just walked as quickly as I could to the corridor outside, like outside the door so I could have some privacy because I knew what she was about to fucking tell me was not something that was going to be good. And then I just remember saying to her, I was like, Alex, just fucking tell me what's wrong because she couldn't. I was like, just tell me what's wrong. And she just goes, Dad's hung himself. Shit. I thought I'd be able to get through to telling this story. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's what it is.
I kind of don't really remember much of what happened. I think I just remember my legs falling out from underneath me, really.
Yeah, so you were a couple of paces in front of me. You opened the door to exit the gym. So you walk out and then you walk down this corridor of stairs. You walked out and that's when she said that. And you sort of dropped to the floor
I just
and let out
remember
a crazy...
When she told me that,
You just screamed. You were like, I think you said no. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. But I do, the one thing I remember was when you followed me in and after I must have screamed or whatever, and you grabbed me and your eyes were so wide and you were like, what's wrong? What's happened? And I just said, Dad's killed himself. And you were like, I think I just remember you saying, no, no, over and over again. And you were looking at me in the face, so our faces were so close. And I think it was just the disbelief and the shock of what we just heard. Because it's how the fuck, how do you process something like that in a public space? So I think I was just crying. We got to a point where you carried me into Gunner's office.
Yeah, so for a second, I'd left you for a second, ran back in, and I said to Gunner, I was like, Ellie says just killed himself. I need your office. And he's like, go, whatever you need. And it was such a quick exchange, and then walked out.
You carried me in there.
And sort of carried you in there, sat in his office.
And then, we're sitting in his office and I'm on the phone to Alex, my sister, and we're both hysterically crying. And I'm trying to ask her questions. I'm just trying to make sense of what's just happened and just trying to process it as best as I can. And we're talking to each other and my mum grabs the phone and she goes, you got to come home. Your dad's just killed himself. And I still remember instantly my whole body got so hot and I just remember jumping, screaming down the phone at her. Because also earlier when my dad had called me and told me what had happened.
The day before,
I'd actually, straight after I got off the phone to him, before I'd messaged Alex, I sent my mum a message and I just said, I never want to hear from you again. You're absolutely fucking disgraceful. I'm disgusted. I'm so disappointed. I'm not your daughter. You're not my mother. I never want to fucking speak to you ever again. I'm done. And when she got on the phone to me and so flagrantly just fucking threw that insensitive comment out, come home, you got to come home, your dad's just killed himself. Yeah. It felt so fucking rude and disrespectful and just she just didn't fucking care. And you had to take the phone off me because I was literally screaming at her, swearing at her and just trying to stab it through the phone. What did you, I can't even remember what you said. What did you say to her?
I just said, what's happened, Lisa? What's going on? And then I think I don't know, Rick's killed himself. You guys need to come home. So I was like, okay.
So
we'll be home.
Yeah. So we ended up leaving and there's a million photographers outside when we're walking down to the basement too. And I'm literally bawling my fucking eyes out and everyone's like, what's going on? I felt so fucking embarrassed and just didn't even know what to.
Fortunately, this is before really you'd done anything big over there.
Yeah, so they weren't taking photos of me. They were waiting for the other famous people that were in
the two cleaners are leaving. Yeah. They've got chemicals in their eyes.
But they were like, what the fuck are they on? What's wrong with them? But we ended up driving home and I just remember fucking lying in the car, put the seat back, looking up at the sky and just being like, what the fuck is going on?
I called my parents, told them what had happened. And unfortunately, I was like, we need to get home. Can you look into getting flights for us?
Can you just organise the flights?
We got things to do.
Yeah.
So luckily that day we were meant to see...
my naturopath.
No, nutritionist.
Nutritionist, yeah.
Yep. So super switched on guy. And
He's amazing.
So obviously making plans we knew we were going to be flying out that night. Well, we'd hoped we were going to fly out that night. We got back to the apartment half an hour after the drive or whatever.
I'm like trying to pack, and I realized that when I got back to Australia that I'd packed like one shoe and like some pajamas, half of my makeup, no hair stuff. I literally didn't even pack, like, because my mind was
different place
on another planet.
So I called the nutritionist and said, "Hey, look, this is what's happened. We have to cancel." And then he actually said, "Look, do you need to see a doctor before you go? Do you want any medication or anything like that?" And
it was so lovely of him to say that, because he's like, also, you don't want her to go into shock.
Yeah,
which is such a real thing.
And neither of us have ever. Well, I had never dealt with like death of someone close. You dealt with your.
I have,
your
yeah,
uncle.
yeah. My uncle, my grandfather.
You were a bit young,
but like to a sickness, and we were prepared, and it wasn't something that was like so traumatic and like tragic as this. Yeah.
So anyway, he set us up with this incredible doctor, and we had to drive out 45 minutes or whatever to go and see him at like, I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And this doctor, he's actually known for giving workshops. He's written a couple of books about the abuse of prescription medication.
Yeah.
He knew that what he was prescribing could lead to some really serious things, and was very upfront with us about those things. Addiction and reliance and
like
that sort of stuff.
You and I had never been on any prescription medication before either. We'd never been on antidepressants, like sleeping tablets, like literally nothing.
Yeah.
So he was a really amazing introduction to.
He was an amazing introduction to drugs. No, he was what I would hope a doctor would be, as in have your interest. He was like, look, this stuff, if you take it daily for the next 3 weeks and then you go without it for 2 days, you're going to feel bad. Yeah. You need to wean yourself off of these things. So here, I'm only going to prescribe you, prescribe 3 weeks worth. Yeah. Whereas every other doctor in America will prescribe you 2 years worth. Oh, yeah. Just try to sell you some stuff.
And then here's the prescription for you to go get it refilled whenever you need. Yeah, but he gave me Xanax and anti-anxiety medication. I don't know the proper term for what I was taking, but it was something that I could take for my anxiety that could sort of calm me down. And then Xanax was just to help me mostly sleep, especially when I was about to get on a 14-hour flight back to Australia amongst a plane full of people, and which also that was shout out to Virgin Australia. Fucking amazing experience because of them. Ross, you wrote.
Yeah, I wrote the cabin crew. I wrote the cabin crew a note. We got to the airport, and the way flights work from LA to Brisbane, you fly out generally at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and you arrive back in Brisbane at 7 a.m. So we got to the airport, and we checked in, and then I wrote the cabin crew a note, a little letter, just saying that my partner's dad has just committed suicide, and we're returning home. We only found out a few hours ago. If there's anything you can do to make her flight a little bit more peaceful. Yeah. She just doesn't want to talk to anyone, see anyone. And they were incredible. They were, yeah. That walked us on the plane, like walked us off the plane first. Yeah. Walked us all the way to our car. Like through customs. Yeah, just breezed us through, so we didn't have to deal with anything or anyone. Yeah. It was actually amazing. And I I can't even really remember that flight, to be honest. I just took a Xanax and I was like, I'm fucking out. I'm just going to, because I'm about to come home to an absolute fucking shitstorm. So now every time we fly internationally, we just tell them our dads died that day. Did you just snort? Daisy, Mummy just snorted. Did you hear that? I think it's the tears in your... so fucked up. Hey, even don't laugh, you cry. Oh, yeah. Okay, so... Starting to run out of people that we can say are dead, though. I know, so, yeah. So, yeah, we ended up getting back, and I wasn't not ready to go back to my family's house. So we went back to your parents' place, had a shower, got dressed, ended up going back to my parents' house, and opened the door. Who's at the front door with their arms wide, like throws her arms around me? My mum. And I just remember saying, don't fucking touch me. Don't fucking come near me. Don't talk to me. And I walked into the house, and I just remember hearing you say, yeah, Lisa, it's not a good time. And my mum's like, oh, like just acted like such a victim. And her friends were around, and like it was just felt like this whole fucking big act.
Anyway, we all got in the kitchen, started talking about stuff, and then I ended up pulling my siblings aside. And I was like, hey, I don't know what you've been told, but I think that you need to know all of this stuff that's transpired. My dad had actually told them what had happened. My mum and him like got all the kids together and they're like, this is what's happened. And my dad was very not smart about it, but like he was like I don't think he knew what he was going to do, but he was like, I'm not going to be made to be the bad person in this situation when, you know, people need to know the fucking truth because they're adults now. All of us kids are adults. We're all over 18. And I think he just thought everyone deserves to know the truth. And he was just like not going down without a fight almost. And told a few friends, family friends. I know my godparents knew. And they were amazing support to him on the day that he actually had found out. But
so I don't think your mum possibly knew the conversation that you had the day before.
But she knows that I did email her, which I never got a response from, saying never speak to me again. Don't fucking know you. Yeah. And then I went and said to my siblings, I'm like, this is what's happened. These are a few other things that have happened as well. And the response was literally, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
We want to be here for mum. We don't want to know.
And look, in their, not their defense or whatever, but I mean, this shit had just happened. We don't know how much they knew or whatever. I think you have an idea of how much they knew.
But the thing for me is when somebody kills himself and that whole thing transpires, and I'm not here to blame someone for someone ending their life, but what I will do is I will hold that person accountable for their actions that led up to that person making that decision. And I know what went on. I know the truth. I saw things go on over the years and so much made sense. And even my sister being manipulated into hiding a phone, but text message just came through saying FTT when my mum and my dad were still together and everything was all good. FTT meaning free to talk, ? And which she felt so fucking guilty for as well when she knew after like that dad had died and that had come out. She was like, hey, like I have to tell you this because this is what happened. So we started finding out all these things. We also found out that dad had previously tried to end his life and the rope actually snapped. And my mum and my youngest sister knew about it.
About 4 months earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4 or 5 months earlier?
Because he knew it was going on. He just didn't have any proof. But when he did have proof, like he was not okay. There's only so far you can push someone and so much you can torture them until their rope fucking snaps. And his family to him was fucking everything.
That was really dark. If that was dark humor there with the rope snapping with the first time, that's really...
Yeah, truly. It was like the straw that, but they knew this. We found out and my mum knew and she kept doing what she was doing. And for me, also, holding someone accountable for that behavior is the most important thing. I have loyalty to my dad. He's the one who's not here anymore. You know, like decisions were made knowing that someone wasn't okay and people knew about it, didn't say anything to the rest of the family about it so we could be there to support him, but just kept doing what they were doing.
Look, I'm definitely not devil's advocating anyone in this instance, but there's his story, her story, and then the truth, I guess. We obviously know his side.
We know what we saw, and then our experiences as well. And look, yeah, it was just a shit situation. Yeah, we're not here to shit on anyone. I'm just here to tell the truth. I'm here to tell what happened. And
so that day, anyway. So we went round. We got to your parents' house.
Yeah, but that conversation with my siblings, that's when the
conversation with the siblings.
That's when the cracks started to show. With
you sort of bit your tongue, and you were like, "Well, okay, all right."
I was just like, "Okay, this is the way that this is fucking going to go." Then dig your heels in. You want to do that? That's your decision. Whatever. Yep. I'm just going to take that into account moving forward. Myself and my middle sister Alex, to her credit, she had actually was someone who was very sensible in her decisions, and she was just like, yeah, no, this is what's happened. This is my experience. and I don't, you know, you don't want to pick sides, but it's like that's what it sort of ultimately became in that moment. She was with me on it.
Yeah. I think she'd felt some of the things that had happened to her. She felt a little bit guilty about a few things as well.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
like,
Not knowing that in the moment,
yeah,
but
exactly. This is fucked up.
And the way that I feel so much for her, because the night that my dad actually ended his life, I think my mum had just gotten up to get some Nurofen or something, and she saw the end of the garage light on in the hallway. The whole house was dark, and she was like, that's weird. She ended up walking to the hallway, to the door, opens the door. There's my dad literally hanging in the garage. She like screams, wakes up the whole house. My sisters and my brother go running in. I don't know if my brother was living there at the moment.
I don't think he was, no.
But they ran in, and my sister, Alex, sat there the whole time because he was up so high. They couldn't cut him down. They couldn't get him down. So he had to stay hanging there in the garage until the cops got there. And she stayed with him. Everybody else fucked off, but she stayed in the garage there with him the whole time until they arrived. And the impact that would have had on her, someone who was already going through shit she was going through, and even the statistics of someone finding someone to commit suicide is that like 90%.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat.
It's a crazy stat.
But there's a very high percentage.
Our counsellor told us this.
Yeah.
He was like, you know, Alex needs counselling because
someone of suicide has a very high likelihood of ending their life in a very similar way.
So we were also really sensitive to that. We ended up getting Alex out of that whole situation when we left and everything, so she could be away from everyone and be with us, and we could take care of her and get her counselling and all of that kind of stuff. And Alex and I were very close. We're not anymore because of other outside circumstances, you know, after the coming years that Dad died. Nothing relating back to Dad. But
no, look, I think she was going through her own issues, but also you were going through your own issues.
Yeah.
But I just think at a point you were just like, you know what, this is what it is.
Yeah. And I still love her, and it's like, it's sad, but it's just like the reality of the situation at the end of the day. But yeah, we had all those conversations. We had to start planning a funeral, which was really fucking awkward because I wasn't like talking to my mom. We planned this funeral and then something happened. Like, you and I did so much work for this funeral. We had done the music, organized the flowers. We'd done
pictures,
pictures, the video montage. Like, we put so much effort in. But before the funeral had actually come around, we went to the mortuary to say goodbye to my dad. And like, things weren't good amongst the family. So, you know, you and I arrived separately with Alex and everyone was doing their own thing. I remember like walking into this little room and it had like tea and coffee on a table, which is really fucked up because like there's a dead body in the room.
And biscuits as well.
And biscuits.
Yeah.
And my sister starts getting into the biscuits. Or like, she's like, does anyone want any tea or coffee? And I was like, you're so fucked up. Anyway. My younger sister, not Alex. And then, yeah, we're like sitting there waiting for them to like, I think it was like a sheer, like you could sort of see him. It was like a sheer cover.
Like this, like that.
Yeah, it was kind of like a sheer cover over his actual face because half the coffin was actually open. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, I actually can't, like, I haven't seen my dad in months and this is
how you say goodbye to your dad.
Yeah. And I remember them like opening that sheer thing. And I can just remember just like falling to my knees and just saying like, Dad, like, what have you done? Because it doesn't feel, like that experience, it doesn't feel real until you see their dead body in front of you, right? And
yeah, you're almost expecting him to show up at some point, right?
Be like, haha, I'm joking. Like, we just wanted to have you home.
Yeah.
And I did have a dream when we were coming back from the States to come home that he was lying in his coffin and I'd gone down to him and he popped out and he's like, just joking, which is such a thing for my dad to do.
Yeah.
He always used to say that he would haunt us after he was gone. But I just remember standing there and I was like I watch a lot of really fucked up like crime stuff. So like, I was touching him and I was touching his chest because shit. I just wanted to like comfort him. So I was just like touching his chest, and I could feel like where they'd done like the autopsy, and they'd like, you know, stitched him up, and it just fucking cut me up, eh? It just broke my heart. And then everyone sort of had their like singular times with him. Like everyone had like a moment to say goodbye. Like usually that's always what happens. You get like a private moment. And I just remember like when I walked in, I was like just holding him. Like I couldn't even hold his hand because it was covered like halfway. So I was just kissing him and just holding him. And the song that came on when I was sitting with him, as soon as I sat down, was the song that they made for Paul Walker. What's it called? Do you know what it's called?
It's been a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the song.
I'll See You Again or something like that. It was like the Fast and Furious one that they played.
Yeah. With Wiz Khalifa.
See You Again, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
That starts playing while I'm like literally sitting with him, and I was like, oh fuck, like this is just, I was just bawling my eyes out. But I also felt like he was there with me, and that was like a kind of, you can call it coincidence, whatever. It was like literally the radio playing.
Yeah.
So fucking random. And like I was just sitting there, and I was just trying to process the whole situation. I ended up walking out, and I was so fucking angry. My mum had said something like, and I think I just said like, and this was in front of the funeral director. She said something, and I think I just said something like, shut the fuck up, like in front of everyone. And the funeral director was like, could see that things like weren't good.
They were tense, put it that way.
Oh, they weren't good. They were really bad. And yeah, so she came up to me, the funeral director was just like, hey, so like, I know like I can see how deeply like this has affected you. I want to ask you if you'd be comfortable with me like giving you a lock of hair of your dad's on the funeral, like in a bag. And I was like, oh, that would actually be so nice. Thank you. Because by the time I got back to our actual family home, after a 14-hour flight of like, you know, basically a day of being after Dad died, everyone had kind of already gone in and taken things of my dad's. Not the Alien and Predator stuff. Like no one gave a fuck about any of that stuff because they never sat down and watched that movie with my dad, and like that was something we genuinely bonded over. So I ended up taking all of the memorabilia that we actually had collected together, and it's like, it's here. It's in our home. I picked up a few things like shirts that still smelt like him, like shirts that hadn't been washed, and like I just like cigar stuff, like just like beautiful things like that I could remember him buying. I had his hair and all that kind of stuff. But the funeral came around, and it was you, me, Alex and her partner sitting on one side with your family and our friends behind us, and then it was Lisa, my brother, my sister on the other side on the church. So it was very obvious.
It's pretty divided.
It was very divided. Yeah, it was pretty obvious what was going on.
But I guess you probably expect something like that in an event, you know.
Yeah. But we'd organised, like the funeral was organised. My mum ended up rocking up. Like we were there like an hour and a half before, organising, making sure all the music was good. The flowers looked beautiful. Like there were framed pictures. Like we went to so much effort to make it a really beautiful, what's the word? Like
send off.
Send off, yeah. Mum just rocks up like 5 minutes as everyone's like fucking there. Doesn't bring anything, just actually fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And everyone's in mourning. Like everyone's sad, but you know, we show up.
Yeah, look, people process things differently, obviously, but yeah, it wasn't I don't know. I have felt like I was able to, even though Rick, we were very close, able to sort of step back and just try to be there for you. And I was definitely a bit pissed off at a few of the things that were happening and a few things that were done because it was almost insensitive to you. And
even just like the funeral stuff when we were organising things, and I was like, do you know what could be really nice when the casket's driving out is the Bad Boys song, because Dad loved like we were raised on that song, you know, that Bad Boys, what you gonna do?
We the theme song to Cops, friends. I'm pretty sure
the theme song to Cops.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I think we should play that. My brother just turns to me and he goes, no, that's tacky. And I was like, You cunts, I'm in charge of the music selection for the day. And we had Bob Marley, No Woman, No Cry.
It was really weird in a way. I mean, because he was a big Bob Marley fan.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought, like, you know, part of the reason why he killed himself was
Because of a woman.
Yeah. Anyway.
So
Yeah.
we had Landslide by Stevie Nicks, that was like his song, our song. Like that's when I hear that song, that's him to me.
Yeah.
And
Fleetwood
then
Mac, right? It's Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac.
Sung by Stevie
Yeah,
Nicks.
sung by Stevie Nicks. And then so that played when we pallbeared his coffin out to the car, and it's a long song. So we'd like put the coffin in the car and everyone's like crying and it's like really fucking sad. Anyway, the car, as it's about to drive off, we just hear the song end, moment of silence, and then it's just like, ding, 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 bad boys, like it goes straight, and everybody just cracked up, and it was actually like the best
and it turned out
exit
to be
as my dad's driving down the driveway in his coffin. Like everyone was just like, that's fucking Rick.
Yeah, it turned out to be the right move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then we're standing at the end of the driveway and my mum, like everyone's looking at us, and my mum just throws her arms around me.
Tries to,
and I just stand there and I'm like, literally, like, don't fucking touch me. And everyone's just like, oh, like, you know, obviously like there's something going on. So all these people at the funeral came up to me and they said, irregardless of what's happened, family is family. You need to forgive and you need to be there for your mother. And I just remember saying, and because I was still so fucking angry at this point, I was just like.
Fortunately, you're on some drugs though.
Yeah, I was medicated.
Probably a bit chilled.
Yep. And I just ended up telling everyone the whole truth. I was like, this is what's happened. You know, I don't care if I'm shitting on someone, but this is the fucking truth. And like, do with it what you will, but don't tell me that I have to forgive anyone to move on, or family is family bullshit, which everyone hears all the time. It's like you just let people abuse you and abuse people around you and just like let that go because they're family. Like fuck that.
Yeah, if you've got toxic shit around you, it doesn't matter whether they're friends or whatever. You just need to.
If you're going to be toxic, and I'm all forgiving for people, like forgiving people for doing something wrong, but it's not hard to be a good person. Period. It's not hard to be a good person, and constant, like if you're constantly like that, that's who you are. You're not going to change. You don't care to change, and I'm just not going to have that in my life. So when I'm done, and this has made me be my dad raised me to be a bad fucking bitch and not take any shit.
Strong person.
A strong.
But can you remember, so the funeral happened, but can you remember we had to go shopping going shopping for a funeral outfit?
Yeah.
We were at the shops.
Yeah. I was wearing a shirt like this actually, and I went to the bathroom. I rolled my sleeves up to wash my hands, not get my hands wet. And as I looked down,
so this is like 3 or 4 days after your dad died, hey?
Yeah. I was going to pull my sleeves down, and I just see this literal like human kiss mark on my arm, raised red, like swollen skin
like
in the shape of lips. Like in Fight Club when he burns it into his skin.
Yep.
That's what it looked like. It looked like a burn, and it was like lips. I've got it on my Instagram actually. I've posted about this before. But that that happened, and I was like, I knew my dad would never leave this earth without saying goodbye to me. And that it stayed there for hours, didn't it? It was literally there all day.
That was
so it didn't itch, it didn't burn, it didn't sting. It was just there.
But it was a bump. It was raised on your skin.
In his lip shape, in his big lips.
Yeah.
Big lips on my. It was just weird.
Dude, that's one of the things
blew me away.
That's an experience for me, but that makes me think, I don't know how. Like you walked to the bathroom and then came back within 4 or 5 minutes, and then that happened. Like I'm still trying to think, how did she do that? Like, what is she, like David Blaine or?
But it was there all day. Like,
and you know what else happened when we were leaving the shops? Can you remember?
Oh yeah,
we walked down the
door.
Escalator.
I've got a photo of this.
And there was a
truck,
Jamaican painted Rasta bus,
and the number
was
plate.
A massive Bob Marley fan.
Yeah, my dad used to call himself a Rasta man. Like his family are from the Caribbean islands. He used to call himself a Rasta man, and the number plate of the actual bus was Rasta. And I was like, that is my fucking dad.
Yeah.
Two coincidences.
So he left you
that's not a coincidence. That's like a pattern of someone being around, and facilitating things.
Maybe David can explain some of these things to us.
But yeah, I ended up having one last conversation with my mum. A family member or a family friend was like, you know, just before we left, she pulled me aside and she's like, hey, whatever you need to say, just say it to your mum. Because she could see how angry and upset I was. And I was just like, okay, like maybe this is something good for me to have closure on. Because I knew after that I was never going to fucking speak to her ever again. And I still haven't to this day. But I kind of don't really remember so much of what I said. I know you did because you were sitting outside for the reason of you thought I was going to kill her.
I thought I was going to end up having to come in and
pull my hands off her neck.
Or you concealed a shank or something.
I ended up I
don't know,
I ended up walking in there and just I remember she was sitting on the bed like looking like a little victim child, and I just said, what the fuck? Like what have you done? She goes, oh, I just slipped. And then tried to like gaslight me and lie and play a victim. And I was like, I know fucking everything. I know everything. I know everything you've done. I know all the actions that you've taken over the years that now make so much sense as to why you did these things and why you said these things and just all of this stuff. It all makes sense now. This is who you are. And lucky for her, I was medicated at the time, because if I wasn't, I would have actually strangled her, looking back at it.
But at least you had
I'm not condoning violence, but like grief just impacts you in such a profound fucking way.
Yeah.
And sends you over the fucking edge.
But at least that to you was sort of some
It was
getting
closure.
some shit off your chest.
And there was no apology, no accountability, like literally nothing, like nothing. But that's not what I went in there for. I knew that I probably wasn't going to get that, and someone to actually own up to their actions and take accountability for themselves. But that was more for me to be like, I'm fucking done. Like from now on, never contact me, never speak to me, never speak of me. I'm not your daughter. You're not my mother. I'm done. Period. Goodbye. And I ended up walking out the door, slamming the door. And we left the house and we've never spoken or seen since.
And then we went back to America about 10 days later because you wanted to be in our home.
Yeah.
We were staying
I wanted to get the fuck out of there. I just could not be there after we said goodbye to my dad. He got cremated and I had all of his things, and I was like, I just want to be at home so I can just like start grieving the way that I need to, because all I felt was like anger, and I didn't want to feel that. Like I actually just wanted to be okay. And I wanted to work through it and just like get to a good place and just like remember my dad and honor my dad. And that's where Albert comes in. He was actually a reference from our nutritionist again.
Yeah.
He was counselor to the stars.
Yeah.
Which is like wild, but because like we were just like these normal people, like, you know, trying to make a living and like work their way up to where they want to be. But
also, I don't know if you remember, but I suppose like, how do you like? We don't have much money, man. Like we're not like the people that you go and sit with them in their $20 million house.
Mega multi-millionaires. Yeah, I'm sitting there at 25. We're still
like trying to like work our
hustling.
way up. Mate. And he, you know what he said to me? I don't know if you remember, but he's like, you just pay me what you think is fair, because my clients who are worth $100 million, they'll give me $10,000 for the hour. I sit down with people for $50. He was actually the most beautiful person. He reminded me of the dude from The Big Lebowski, an intellectual version of that. He was so chilled, so relaxed, but he knew what he was getting across, and he just made you feel comfortable. And but should we maybe go into that should we call this episode? I think we're just over an hour. We're about an hour and maybe an hour and 15 or so. Let's talk about Albert and how he helped us process, how he helped you process. Because we did 3 types of counselling with him. Yeah, we did. One-on-one. Yep. So you did with him, I did with him. Then there was couples. And then we also brought your sister over. Yeah. And I think he had a couple of sessions with her, you, and he did have. Yeah, she was not okay, and we just wanted to support her and like help her through what she was going through as well. She was living in that house. Yeah. And we just wanted to get her out of there and like make sure that she was happy and she was okay. But he was instrumental in...
He was, yeah. He definitely was. It was something that he helped us navigate the grief process and like explain things and validate feelings and be like, it's okay that you're feeling like this. This is completely normal. You know, helped me navigate talking to people who were like pressuring me to be speaking to my family. And
yeah, see, because when we were here, when we were in Australia and, you know, around the funeral, I could see you, you know, biting back at these people, but you didn't have the words to, I don't know, you did have the words, definitely, but you didn't, I think you maybe like sort of question, like, was this the right thing to do? Am I doing the wrong thing? So he validated so many of these things and thoughts and feelings and put them into, you know, this, this way that helped you understand. It's like, oh, okay, that's why I'm feeling like this.
Yeah. And I went through the motions of like, and he like explained things like, you know, there's anger, there's sadness, there's like, he laid out all of the processes that like happen in the grieving process, like just explained it to me so I knew what to expect when I was feeling a certain way, that it was normal, that it was okay. Like, and I probably had like, 2 to 3 at one point sessions with him weekly.
Yeah, and some of these sessions were like 3 or 4 hours as well. Yeah. I reckon we spent over 100 hours with that.
Because just making sense of that whole experience was really important.
Yeah.
And just being able to navigate that in the best way possible, because I like, you see how people deal with grief. It either destroys them or it makes them stronger, more resilient, and a better person. And I was like, I want to be a better person because of this. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole. And like the way that I sort of see grief sometimes, and like I said earlier, like grief is such a profound experience, and like it can make people who are like responsible, safe, good people do crazy shit that they never would do in their life. And I kind of feel like it's like you never get over it. It's always there. Like people say, you know, you'll get over it. Like you'll be fine in 10 years. But like grief is something that you never get over. It's always there. And it honestly, as time goes on, it feels less and less, but you can always sort of still feel it there.
Grief is also different for every person because of their own experience with the situation. I mean, suicide is very different to watching someone die of old age, to watching them die of cancer, or watching, you know, whatever, like a newborn or an infant, like those things that they've got very different impacts. Yeah. But you just become more and more resilient as sometimes time. Some people don't. Some people it turns them, I think, the other way. But I wanted it to make me a better person. And I did so much work to do that. Yeah, and the stuff that we did, again, you know, what I mentioned at the beginning of this chat was like we did some groundwork previously on, you know, we were already exposed to personal, professional wellness development, trying to like get tools to make us better. So this was a natural step. Yeah. It wasn't absurd to think, oh, we need to, sit down on a chair and have someone, look into our life. Yeah. To us, it was like, when that nutritionist suggested him to us, we're like, yep, send him around. What do we need to do? So let's unpack that in this next episode, shall we? This is, I guess, call this episode loss. Yeah. You've gone over and I appreciate how honest, and that's pretty tough for you. Yeah. Yeah. It was really hard. It was really hard to actually tell that story, but I wanted to tell it in the way that my dad actually deserved to have it told. But yeah, like I feel like I'm sort of honoring him in a way, and having this experience like with you and being able to share that. So hopefully it can help somebody out there. If they're going through it, just to see like the impact that it has on the people around as well. And yeah, because people also, saw still highlights. You didn't share really any of this stuff when it was going on social media. You had no idea how to. My life looked perfect. It was that juxtaposition of like my career was going so perfectly well, and then my personal life was just in absolute turmoil, and I was really, really struggling. But I did experience some things that I really learned from, which we'll go into the next episode. I think we've probably gone a little bit slightly over this one.
But it's just a lot to say.
Look, thank you so much for being honest and sharing that. So I think this is the first time and place that you've actually ever shared the experience and the events that led up to your dad's death, your dad dying, and then, you know, in the moments after. So it was really nice to share that with you. And I do think that you did your dad justice as well. You just shared your truth, and that's all you can really do. Yeah. Let's get into it in the next topic. What a weird note to sort of end an episode on.
I know, but it's a long. It's kind of like that long. It needs to be sort of over 2 episodes, and we also speak about your experience with your dad and everything as well. So yeah, it's just it's a lot to unpack. So we don't want people on a podcast for 2 hours here.
Yeah. Awesome.
But thank you for joining us, guys. It's been my honor today to tell you this story and share how I'm feeling and be really honest and vulnerable and very open with my story. I hope it's helped somebody out there, and it's made an impact and a difference in some small way if it can. But thank you for being here with me and
of course
talking with me and supporting me as always. You've been the most amazing husband. But
I was going to say, of course, ride or die, but it was like inappropriate.
Exactly. But yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for listening. It's been
our pleasure.
Tune into the next one, which we're going to shoot pretty much back to back because while we're on this roll, we're going to sit down here for another, maybe hour or so and explore these things. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to In Real Life. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe on Spotify and connect with us on Instagram at IRL with us. And remember, life isn't about meeting other people's expectations. It's about living it on your terms and meeting your own expectations. So go out there and live in real life. We'll see you next time.